All right, let's dive into something pretty wild, a concept that's equal parts dark fantasy and heavy German philosophy. We're talking about a final synthesis, a moment when order and chaos stop fighting and instead merge into one. But this isn't a happy ending. This is a union that literally triggers the end of reality.
And the whole terrifying idea really hinges on one central question, which is going to guide us through this whole explainer. What happens when the ultimate pursuit of knowledge decides to just turn on itself? When it decides not to learn anymore, but to actively forget? And we're not just talking about losing a few facts. We mean the total, deliberate dismantling of the mind itself.
So, to really get why this all falls apart so spectacularly, we have to start at the beginning. We need to look at the two big players in this cosmic drama, these fundamental forces that are locked in an eternal fight. In philosophical terms, you can think of this as the duel between the I, the self, and the not I, everything else that stands in its way. First up, you've got the spirit of infinite order. This is our I, and you can pretty much picture it as the ultimate cosmic librarian. Its one and only goal in life, ultimate control. It believes that for reality to have any meaning at all, every single thought, every little piece of data has to be perfectly filed, indexed, and predictable. It wants to master everything. And on the other side, we have its perfect opposite, the spirit of primal discord. This is the not I, the great obstacle. Its entire philosophy is the complete reverse of orders. It believes true freedom, true liberation, is only found in destruction, in that glorious chaotic noise of meaning just falling to pieces. Its entire purpose is to tear down the very structures that order spends all its time building. So yeah, the contrast couldn't be more extreme. You have order, who is completely obsessed with building a perfect, unbreakable system. And then you have discord, whose entire reason for being is to watch that system explode into a million pieces. It's ultimate control versus shattered meaning. They are, by their very nature, completely at odds. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets really interesting. For all their hatred of each other, they're stuck in this weird paradox. They need each other. This constant fight, this cosmic friction between them, is actually the engine that keeps reality going. If they ever stopped fighting, existence would just stop.
This quote just captures their messed up relationship so perfectly. Order spends eons building this incredible monument of wisdom, brick by brick. And discord doesn't just come along and kick it over, oh no. It waits. It watches. It calculates the absolute perfect moment to strike, to make sure the collapse is as complete and devastating as it can possibly be.
Now, this constant tension, this is what philosophers like Fichte called striving. It's this idea that you can only define yourself, the I, by struggling against what you're not, the not I. It's this endless conflict that gives everything momentum, but it's a momentum that's always pushing towards some kind of breaking point. And that brings us to the catastrophe, the breaking point, the moment the eternal struggle finally, horribly ends. This is the monstrous synthesis, a ritual where these two enemies do something unthinkable. They don't just stop fighting, they merge into one. I mean, just let that phrase sink in for a second. A twisted ritual of forbidden logic. That tells you everything, right? This is not some beautiful, harmonious union. This is an unnatural, horrifying event that breaks the most fundamental rules of existence. So, how does this even happen? Well, first, that striving, that conflict, it reaches its absolute screaming peak. Then, right at that moment of maximum tension, the two opposites just snap together. And the result isn't balance, it's something entirely new. A devourer, born from the death of their war. And this new creature, this monstrous form, is literally the worst of both worlds. It has all the cold, systematic efficiency of order, but it's driven by the totally nihilistic, destructive goals of discord. It's basically a perfect engine for achieving a completely meaningless end. So the outcome is just a total perversion of everything order stood for. The very thing it championed, that pure light of intellect, gets twisted. It doesn't eliminate anything anymore. It just consumes. It becomes a black hole, sucking all knowledge, all meaning into a void you can never escape. This new entity has a purpose, and it is terrifying. It's not about knowing or not knowing anymore. Its whole existence is now dedicated to making sure everyone else forgets. It has become an engine of total erasure. And this strategic pivot is just horrifying when you see it laid out. Before, Order's goal was simple: become the smartest being in existence. But after it's been corrupted by Discord, the new goal is so much more sinister: ensure everyone else forgets everything. It's a complete inversion of its original mission. And here's the absolute kicker: the very drive for knowledge, that will to know that started this whole thing, has been weaponized. It's been twisted from a tool of enlightenment into a mechanism for enforcing universal amnesia. It is a force of intellectual destruction on a scale you can't even imagine. So, what's left behind after this engine of erasure has done its job? It's not a nice, clean slate. It's not peaceful silence. No. What's left is the rubble of thought itself, a state of universal decay they call epistemological entropy. So what in the world is epistemological entropy? Okay, it's not just about forgetting facts. Imagine a library where not only have all the books been burned, but the very language they were written in has been wiped from existence. It's the total collapse of the architecture of logic. It's a rot in the very foundations of thought. And it's a prison the mind can't escape because the tools you'd use to think your way out are broken. The source material has this line that is just so haunting. It says, "This new universe is like an uncanny mirror that reflects nothing but a void where understanding used to be." Just imagine that, looking for a reflection of yourself, of reality, in seeing nothing. Just an absolute emptiness. That's the end result here. So all of this brings us to the story's really profound warning. The big takeaway is this: simple ignorance isn't the greatest danger out there. The real threat is a pure, powerful intellect that gets changed to a destructive, nihilistic madness. That combination is what can truly undo everything. In the end, the legacy of this final synthesis isn't some grand tragedy or a noble silence. It's actually something much, much creepier. It's that deep, chilling horror of what's been lost, a vast silence that's only broken by the faint echo of a madman's laughter. And so, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. This entire story suggests that the infinite, painful struggle between order and chaos is actually what makes existence possible. And it forces us to ask ourselves, is an unending conflict really worse than getting a final, absolute answer that just devours itself?